Earlier this week, we were treated to a brand new trailer for Star Trek Starfleet Academy, and it is just another in a long line of unappealing, non-Trek shows that just... I really don't know who they're aiming for at this point in time. Like, there are very few other franchises that have stood the test of time, that have been around for as long as Star Trek, okay? Like, it predates Star Wars by about a decade. And in the sci-fi genre, the only thing that they could call a contemporary has faced a similar type of a fate in the form of Doctor Who, but yeah, globally, Star Trek was like, it was a big deal, and it had been for multiple decades, but ever since the likes of Alex Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams took the helm back in 2009 with that Star Trek reboot that, funnily enough, yeah, J.J. Abrams reboot that, tricked a bunch of people into thinking that there was some actual substance here. Stop me if you've heard that before. But yes, whether it was Into Darkness or Beyond, or on the TV side of things, Discovery, Below Decks, or any one of those other atrocious live action or animated shows, it's just been a dead puppeted franchise. Like, Doctor Who has probably been treated worse, but the humiliation probably hasn't been as prolonged as it has been with Star Trek. But of course, we could go back and forth forever, but just simply comparing and contrasting what Star Trek is at this point in time to its heights, even in 1966 with the original series, or TNG and the other series that ended up spawning. No. We've got the likes of Starfleet Academy, which is supposed to be kicking off in 2026, and it just looks, well, dead on arrival doesn't even begin to explain just how cooked this is. And honestly, just watching the trailer, and I won't subject you guys to this, it's once again, right? Like, it misses the mark so consistently and so routinely. That one still image, that summarizes it better than anything I could possibly say. We talked about it, I think it was yesterday with the Fantastic Four, but 69% nice of ticket buyers were male, okay? Star Trek, I don't think I'm shocking anybody by saying this, is ostensibly a male brand, or at least it was, okay? But now it's a brand for nobody. But yes, when it was cooking, there were female Star Trek fans, but Star Trek Trekkies, okay, the guys going to the conventions, yeah, they're guys, And the women that did like the Star Trek shows from back in the day, they were very likely introduced to them by a brother or a father. And all of this pandering, all of this forced diversity, okay, it really does feel quite analogous to what we've seen before a little bit earlier this year. Well, hell, what, a month ago at this point? I can't believe it's only been that long. But Ironheart and several other cringe games that have come out in the past 12 months. But it's just like, it's the perfect term that was also coined earlier this year. It's fatigue. It really is fatigue of a certain type that just really laid in this year. And honestly, it's not like, when it's done right, anybody's against diversity. Not saying that you can't have a black captain or somebody black can't be in Starfleet. It's just whenever Hollywood or vast majority of creatives want to take creative license, they always stick somebody of that phenotype in there, and it never ends up going well. Mostly because, well, they can't tell good stories, and instead of taking the brunt of criticism for their lackluster storytelling, they'll just simply say that you're racist or sexist, because it's easier to dismiss the audience than to actually face your own inadequacies. It happened with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You remember that show that came out in, 2022? Something that, generally speaking, people were at least hyped for, or at least worried about the implications that very consequential series could have. But in general, it was and still remains, I think, maybe Mandalorian Season 1 remains the only other show that got more eyeballs on it. But it was a bad show through and through. But the only thing that Disney or Lucasfilm would recognize was, the toxic fans that just hated on Reva. Well, Reva was a terrible character, but everything else about that very feminine-centric show, funny again how that works, all crumbled under the weight of its unrealized and monumental potential. For as much as whenever you see a trailer like this, okay, whenever you see basically 90% Starfleet Academy class, whenever you see a female Jem'Hadar, but it's alright, guys, because, she's half Klingon, because I don't even know how the fuck you get to that at that point in time. But yeah, that's your big takeaways, and it's just, whenever you do this, it just becomes a trope. It just becomes a meme. It just becomes a point of mockery because you can do good diversity. Like I said before, and I raised the point in House of the Dragon Season 1 by race-swapping Corlys Valerian. It was definitely an eye-rolling moment, and then when you seen it in action, it's like, yeah, actually improved the story right there by making that one subtle, well, not so subtle change. And from something that I love quite a bit in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if you pay attention to the NPCs walking around, especially in Midgar after the plate collapse and the events of Remake, yeah, it's a much more diverse area. But it does kind of make sense because there were a couple of sectors that were blown up, so of course there was going to be some displeasure there, but then of course Midgar itself is the hub of industry in the world as it's being presented, so of course people from all corners of the world wanting to get a job working at Shinra are eventually going to turn up at Midgar, so yeah, if the slums or if the city in general looks a little bit more diverse, totally makes sense. Now, of course, when you have a black mayor of Calm named Fritz, you gotta go ahead and scratch your head a little bit. But it's whenever you get slapped in the face by the likes of the trailer for Starfleet Academy, or you just see the unappealing nature of Ironheart or the Acolyte, or why audiences really aren't turning out for Fantastic Four because you see the female Silver Surfer and you see Sue Storm and go, oh god, just another 90, 100-pound girl boss who's just gonna fucking save the day at the end of it. It's like, we're all so tired of this stuff, man. It's not even really worth memeing on at this point in time. You just take a look at it and you just roll your eyes and you move on to the next thing, and then you just wait for it to fail. You wait for the cycle to continue again. The creators are going to blame the racist and toxic fans, but then when you look at the audience ratings, you realize that actually nobody in general watched this. The only people that did are that modern audience that you're pandering to, and that who everybody else has ditched. Because as Robert Meyer Burnett points out, perhaps this Jemadar Klingon hybrid is the result of Sydney Sweeney's eugenics program, because as everybody else is kind of done with this shit, the new battle is being waged right now, or waged rather, and it's being fought on the battlefield of advertisements. And god, it's so funny to just watch all of this Sydney Sweeney shit take place. Like, yeah, you got an attractive model selling a product, I know, right? Like fucking breaking a lot of new ground on this one, but it's gotten to a point where the White House is chiming in. Now, the last time we seen the White House chime in on something, it was a petty response to South Park season premiere, which is kind of hilarious. How all of the media outlets praising that Trump sketch for like 48 hours just aren't talking about South Park anymore. It's almost like this modern audience, the actual rage mongers, don't actually care about something long term. They're just going to wait for the next shiny thing to roll across their desk and get distracted by that because, oh no, yeah, oh South Park, oh yeah, oh you're really taking the fight to Trump. Oh wait, Sydney Sweeney's trying to spark up the Fourth Reich and make them all wear denim. Oh no, we better go get her on that one. Yeah, man, the White House coming out and saying that the liberal outrage over Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle jeans commercial is moronic. Couldn't agree more. And this is one of those cases where, if the White House or Trump comes out and says, the crazy liberals, radical left is coming out, they hate this. This is just like a factually true statement. Because outside of those fringe weirdos, like, I just kind of see people going, oh yeah, that's nice. But they're going, oh, that's a pretty good ad. Or it's quite reminiscent of the likes of what Cindy Crawford in the Pepsi ad, or Calvin Klein back when they, had their wits about them with, what was that, Mark Wahlberg and Kate Moss, I think, were doing jean ads back in the 90s. Yeah, this used to just be rank and file shit. Hell, even when you pick up like a Game Informer, EGM, or just any other, video game magazine, how would they sell things? Kits out, controllers out. Like, yeah. And so it's really simple stuff. So yeah, only freaks are going to complain about this. Freaks who were at the control so overtly over the past decade, where they decided to put in all of their pet fetishes front and center. Now that they're seeing somebody like this take back a little corner. And this is why gatekeeping is so important. And if you think that it's a little bit too harsh to keep certain people out, just look at the unified response to the left the moment that there's one ad featuring one 27-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed, big-titted actress comes out with the fury and the Furiosity is not a word. Furiosity is, so we'll use that one. When they come to try to tamp her out and try to tamp down these types of ads, because the moment that you let one in is the moment that other ones pop up, just simply trying to take advantage of these funny scenarios, because Dunkin Donuts is leaning into the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle outrage, and well, it's kind of funny, okay? So Dunkin Donuts drops her own spin on the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad starring actor Gavin Cass. I'll take your word for it. The left is already melting down because, yeah, okay, for as much as I missed out when the first time we talked about the Sweeney ad, it's like I didn't even catch the whole jeans thing. It's like, oh yeah, she's selling jeans. She says jeans. That's fine. But apparently that's Nazi iconography. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, man. We understand that you have a one-track mind and a thought process that looks like a tube tunnel, but all right. There are other people that can just go, yeah, no, jeans. All right, cool, fine. I'll just go on with my day. But no, you're going to fixate on that. So in another old-fashioned way of marketing, yeah, you just meme on something that's going on right now, and you just try to add a little bit of humor to it. It's so funny, right? Because I don't know. I haven't heard anything in regards to whether or not the Naked Gun is funny. Hopefully it is. You know, Liam Neeson has the capacity to do it. I just don't really think that's going to be the case, but we'll have to see. But if advertisement is where we're going to be getting some comedy coming back into the world, we'll take what we can get. So I want to see this, okay?
Look, I didn't ask to be the king of summer. It just kind of happened.
All right.
This tan? Genetics. I just got my color analysis back. Guess what? Golden summer. Literally. I can't help it. Every time I drink a Dunkin' Golden Hour refresher, it's like the sun just finds me. So if sipping these refreshers makes me the king of summer, guilty as charged.
All right. All right, and then copyrighted music.
The Golden Hour refresher. Only a Dunkin'.
All right, so he says, yeah, genetics, okay. We know that was a little bit more overt, I suppose. I don't know why explaining why you have a good tan is required such an in-depth analysis in order to sell a glass of sugar water, but all right. But yeah, if that's enough to kick the hornet's nest, well, fucking good for it. Good, go. Because it's shit like that, yeah, is going to drive people to perhaps think twice. I don't really think that's going to talk anybody who wasn't already going into Dunkin' to go check this out. Maybe they didn't know that they had this. I don't even know what the drink is supposed to taste like. Whatever, concoction of artificial ingredients and sugar that they have in there. Whatever, man. But it's shit like that that's innocuous, that'll get people talking, because we've seen the response of American Eagle, where their stock prices went from like $9 all the way up to $12 after simply just putting one of the most viral celebrities in their ads. Is like, yeah, this shit works. It's pretty easy to fucking figure out. Advertising is not exactly rocket science. And yeah, we know the consequences of doing shit the other way. We see dead franchises like Star Trek just limping along, Star Wars, Doctor Who, the list goes on and on. But of course, one of the biggest offenders at the tail end of last year is now, in fact, reaping the rewards of the stupidity that they sown with Jaguar Land Rover, says CEO Mardell to step down. Oh wow, imagine that. You preside over a clown show, you end up closing up and rolling out with the rest of the circus. Get woke, go broke doesn't even begin to describe how fucking stupid Jaguar was at the end of last year. But it also really highlights just how done people are with that type of advertising, just how done with that type of astroturfed culture people are done with. If we can just simply go back, or simply course correct, where we have appropriate representation in our entertainment, in our world in general, because if we can do that, then yeah, we can start to heal. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.